Have you ever heard of the IKEA effect? So it's that observation in science that if you have to put effort in to build something, to create it, to attain it, then we typically value it more highly. In the original research, researchers got volunteers to build some IKEA storage boxes. And afterwards they were asked to value them, and they put a value on them that was much higher than the value given by people who just spotted them on the shelf and were asked to value them. So it's this idea that we place much more value on things that when we have to put some physical effort into, whether it's building it, creating, whether it's even making a meal from scratch versus just putting something in the oven or something, whether it's you edited a piece of a small video that you made for social media versus get someone else to do it for you, whatever it is, the act of effort, putting effort in, gives us a greater sense of value. It's sometimes referred to as the effort paradox. I'll share with you my own IKEA effect. Several years ago when we bought our first house, we just couldn't afford to do renovations. We got the house for a really bargain price, only because there was so much work needed to be done. In fact, it had been on the market for over a year, because it needed so much work, and most people recognising how much work it needed and the cost of doing that work, it just put everyone off. So we bought the house. My previous DIY experience had been literally changing a light bulb. I knew nothing about renovation, anything like that. In fact, our first purchase for the house is we went to B&Q, the DIY store, and we bought 2 screwdrivers and a hammer. One was a flat head screwdriver and one was the star screwdriver, often called a Phillips screwdriver. And we used these 2 screwdrivers and a hammer to rip out the previous kitchen that was in the house. But over the period of 5 months, work with my dad's help, my mum's help, my sister's help, other family members, my Uncle John, family, friends, we literally learned how to do everything. I mean, I literally went from changing a light bulb to, fitting a kitchen. We knocked walls down, we built new walls. In fact, in the upstairs room in the house, we even had to raise the floor in the entire upper part of the house, because the previous people had 3 carpets on top of each other. So when they bought a new carpet, rather than ripping the old carpet up, they just put a new one on top of the old one. And they did this 3 times. Well, in total they had 3 carpets. And so obviously when you put a new carpet on top of an old one, you can't close the door. So what they did is they cut the bottom off the door each time. So all the upstairs doors had the bottom cut off them, so that didn't look really silly. When we took all their carpets up, there was a big gap, so we actually raised the floors up. But I'm telling you this because that took an immense amount of effort in stuff that I would have never even conceived of being able to do when I had, in my previous time in my life, had changed a light bulb, and I think I'd wired a plug once wrongly. It took me ages to raising the floor in an entire upstairs of a house. That was a massive job that my dad and I did. But the reason I'm telling you this is because putting that effort in created this massive sense of achievement. It wasn't just that I valued the house more. It boosted this sense of, look what I'm capable of doing kind of thing. And that's what the science tells us. Like the IKEA effect, this putting effort in to achieve or attain something, it boosts your self-esteem because it taps into this need that we have for something called self-efficacy. In other words, to feel that we're able to shape our lives in some sort of meaningful way, to feel that we're able to add value to things by literally doing things, putting effort in for ourselves. Because ultimately when we build something or shape something or create something, what we're doing is we're reinforcing a deep idea that says, I can do this. I am capable. I can figure things out. I can shape my environment. And all of these things are positives that sink into our mind, and they're reinforced by the effort itself and that whole experience itself. So it's not only that we value things much more, we start to value ourselves much more. We start to feel more for ourselves on the inside. And it's not about, building, renovating houses. It's not about doing big things. It's about putting effort into even some of the small things in our lives that we usually don't put that much effort in. Sometimes adding even 10% of effort to something can boost this sense of self-efficacy within ourselves and ultimately therefore improve our self-esteem. So here's a few things to try, or a few different ways that you can apply the IKEA effect in your life. So there's the 10% rule. So try adding 10% or more effort to something you would normally automate or outsource. So for example, cook a meal from scratch, or write a handwritten note instead of sending a text. Maybe design your own exercise plan rather than using an off-the-shelf exercise plan. And then there's build before you buy. If you find yourself in this kind of scenario where you're about to buy something, for some things, maybe ask yourself, could I build this, or could I play a role in the creation of this thing rather than buying it? Learn something unnecessary. Choose a small skill that isn't required but that stretches you. Maybe, edit a video, or learn some basic DIY, or fix something minor, even try a new recipe technique. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is participation. So at the end, whatever it is that you've put some sort of effort in, ask yourself, what did I learn from this? What surprised me? What does this say about me? What does this say about the sort of person that I am and my capabilities? Just allow yourself to reflect on it, just to reinforce what it is about this, especially for what it says about who you are as a person and what you're capable of doing. So anyway, that's the IKEA effect. It's this, I was going to say this idea, it's this fact actually that we tend to value things more highly when we put effort into their construction or the attainment or the creation of them. But it goes beyond just perceiving more value or giving more value to things. It actually inflates how we feel about ourselves on the inside. So ultimately we start to not just value the thing. Because of the sense of effort and attainment, we start to value ourselves more on the inside. And I think that is where the IKEA effect really comes into its own.